As Phil said, we'll circumnavigate here and head to the weather here. And I guess I want to start by just saying what the bottom line in our forecast here is, I think, more of the same. We have a lot of similarities with the outlook last week. These are daily temperatures here starting off from Lansing. They're representative. And as you look at this graphic, the key thing here, color-wise, that brown area in the middle, that's the area we typically are here at this time of the year. These values go from the beginning of March up through yesterday. And you can see that especially since the last 3-4 weeks, been extremes from one end to the other, but especially over the last 2 or 2.5 weeks, we've tended
Andy, we lost your signal
on the bottom here in the blue area with below temperatures. And that's essentially where we're going to be headed here with more changes from up to down, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Looking at the statistics here for the last week, mean temperatures on the left-hand side here, not surprisingly, a colder than normal week across Michigan and the entire Great Lakes region. Large departures from 4 degrees Fahrenheit in the far southeastern part of the state to as much as 10 degrees Fahrenheit below normal in the western Upper Peninsula. And again, you can see that this just wasn't us, it was over the entire region. It was also another fairly wet week, 3/4 of an inch totals over most of the state, a little bit less in the northwestern lower and across sections of east central. But again, most areas did pick up appreciable precip. And as we all know, here this last week on Monday, we had a visit from some late season snowfall, including some significant snowfall in some parts of the state. Of course, it didn't last long. The soils are still too warm to support that. There is still, believe it or not, in the Upper Peninsula, some areas do have fairly significant, still permanent snowpack there, but it's melting. But for a lot of the rest of the state here on Monday, we did see unusual late season snowfall as well with the cold temperatures. Soil moisture values here continue at above normal levels for the time of the year. The left-hand side graphic here, these are percentiles of soil moisture in the top 3 feet of the soil profile. You can see the greens there. Those are all wetter than normal conditions. And not just Michigan, but you can see over much of the eastern Corn Belt. Now, contrast that as you go west and south, and you can see areas here in the central and southern Great Plains and then westward where we have the opposite with deficits and drought conditions. And you can see that reflected here in the latest U.S. drought monitor on the left-hand side. So conditions with lack of water still continue, certainly. And thinking about the wheat crop here, that's a big issue here, as well as forage production here early in the season with the lack of water, again, from the Central Plains southward into Texas. On the forecast map here this morning, or on our weather map this morning, we've got a frontal boundary moving currently. Actually, this is as of 8 o'clock, so it's a little bit of a forecast, but that frontal boundary is just now making it into the lower peninsula. It'll push rapidly west to east across the state. It is a cold front and an occluded front here, but interestingly, the air in the back side of it is not significantly colder. Matter of fact, it's even a little bit warmer than where we have been here. There are there's a couple areas of showers ahead of this. You can see on the radar time lapse down below, a lot of that precipitation has already moved through, and the back edge of the precipitation now approaching central parts of the state. That'll clear the eastern part of the state over the next couple of hours and set the stage for we'll see clearing skies. It'll be a windy day, west winds. And again, even though it's a cold front, we will see temperatures milder today than they were yesterday, or actually the last couple of days. We will see 50s, 40s north into the 50s and even near 60 in the south. So it will be actually a fairly nice, almost seasonable day in terms of temperatures here during the day today. Our clearing and drier conditions, though, our trend is short-lived. By tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, you can see off to our west the next weather system to approach Michigan. And this is a very active weather pattern, as I mentioned at the very beginning. And we have a warm front down here to our south and west. That marks the edge of some unusually warm air. If you've watched any of the weather maps, you've heard people talking about 80s and 90-degree maximum temperatures down in southern parts of the U.S. That's moving towards us, and it'll be the first visit of that we've had from that air, at least for parts of the state here for the weekend. But ahead of that warm front, we will see some scattered showers and maybe a thunder shower develop in the far south, first in the far southwest part of the state by tomorrow afternoon, and then continuing into the evening into early Saturday. So after this morning, that's our next chance for measurable precipitation. It does not look like a widespread event at this point in time, but at least 50-50 odds, I think we will see precip, especially across really the southwestern quarter or third of the state. I think that's where the threat will be highest, or the risk will be highest. And there we're talking about probably a 1/4 of an inch type totals, maybe a little bit more in some locations, but some areas, again, because of the scattered nature, will also have little or none. That will come to an end by Saturday morning. And then the next, again, that weather system slowly makes its way towards the north and west, or north and east, and you can see the warm front just entering into the state. Again, that's the leading edge of really a taste of summer for the state. That'll move rapidly to the north across much of the state during the day Saturday. So we will see clearing skies and windy and much warmer conditions. And probably we're talking about first time for many areas into the 70s, even into the low 80s in the far southern part of the state during the day Saturday. That warm air will be with us just for about 36 hours though, because you can see there is a cold front out here, and this system will move into the Great Lakes region. And finally, the cold front will pass from west to east through the state late on Sunday into Monday. And that will bring another big change from much above normal temperatures or warmer than normal on Sunday back to much below normal cooling. Actually, on Monday, we'll probably see falling temperatures during most of the day as temperatures go from the 50s and 60s far north to near 80 south, back into the 30s and 40s. So a huge swing in temperatures expected early next week from warm to cold. As I mentioned here on Saturday, a taste of summer. These are forecast high temperatures during the day on Saturday, and these are probably conservative, but you can see some 80s. That's the first time we have seen 80 degrees in the state since the middle of last fall. But even it doesn't quite make it up into eastern portions of upper Michigan, but it should be across much of lower Michigan. We should see the influence of that warm air. So again, very, very warm and summer-like during the day on Saturday. And then after the cold front goes through late Sunday into Monday, much colder, and it sets the stage for several below normal or colder than normal days, again, early next week with I would call it certainly the possibility, but I almost want to put the word likelihood. We will see some freezing temperatures once again over most areas. These are forecast low temperatures as of Wednesday morning. Right now, that looks like it could be the coldest morning, but I would see also colder or below freezing temperatures here in northern parts of the state, also during the day or during the morning on Tuesday as well. But for most of the state, I think the coldest readings with this will be on Wednesday morning. After that, then we should see moderation once again late next work week, Thursday, Friday. And then following that, because of this upper air progressive pattern, probably more cold air moves back into the state by the weekend after next. So again, up and down with temperatures. Precipitation totals here for the next week forecast to be generally 1/4 to 1/2 an inch, a little bit less. And that's a theme here in the medium range forecast. I think it's also important to note here. So a little bit less in terms of the totals of precipitation, certainly versus what we've had over the last few weeks. Highest totals are forecast to be across, again, southern and especially southwestern parts of the state. And then finally, shifting here to the medium range, couple themes here. One is that progressive pattern, jet stream pattern that's led to all the ups and downs in temperature. That generally continues, and that's what the guidance suggests here. Looking at the jet stream, you can see a pattern for the last few days of April, troughing over the eastern part of the country, ridging over the west, and that's the general upper air pattern. But with that, the message is probably a continuation of cooler than normal mean temperatures. But the other theme here that's also important to note, it starts to decrease the frequency of weather systems going through the upper Midwest. And so the precipitation total forecast with both the 6 to 10 day and the 8 to 14 day outlooks is below normal. And I think that's certainly significant, given that many of us, most everybody here is waiting and anxiety and anticipation to try to get things moving. But even though we're looking at a forecast of below normal mean temperatures, I think it's still positive that maybe a little bit drier. So hopefully maybe some opportunities start to materialize here later next week, especially in those areas that don't get as much precipitation over the next couple days. But again, both the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day outlooks are cooler than normal, but they're also drier than normal as well. So summarizing here, we have rain ending in the eastern parts of the state here over the next couple of hours, with clearing in many areas, windy and fairly mild in most areas. Most of the day tomorrow will be decent and pleasant. Over the southwestern corner of the state might be an exception. We'll see that next weather system start there and then move its way north and eastward during the evening tomorrow into early Saturday. And then that sets the stage for our visit, about a 36-hour worth visit by some subtropical air into the upper Midwest for the first visit of the season, with maybe pushing 80 in many areas on Saturday, possibly again on Sunday. And then once again, the backside of the system comes in with showers and thunderstorms, mostly late Sunday into early Monday, but then a big cool down at the early part of next week into the middle of next week. And as you just saw, a little bit more of the same indicated with the medium range, except the exception, less precipitation. And with that, I think I will stop. And normally, I think, do we want to go back to Manny here? I know we'll take questions later on, but Jen, I'll hand it back to you for now.